they have very individualized profiles on people that in part have been produced by AI and some of these big data mining firms that work for intelligence agencies like Palantir. And the goal of that is to basically, the military and all of these groups, knowing we know that they've invested millions of dollars in building essentially bot armies that are used to conduct influence operations. And we know they also do that against the domestic populace. And that, this was legalized under the Obama era. They lifted the domestic propaganda ban and all of these other things with the NDAA, or one of the NDAAs in the Obama era. And all of that can be pointed at the US populace domestically for the purpose of advancing what these guys say is in the US's national interest, but increasingly it's in, either the deep state or the power elite's best interest.
The term conspiracy theory has taken on an entirely new connotation in recent years. Efforts to keep us in the dark and enable the so-called global elites to carry out their nefarious schemes to maintain power are more apparent than ever before. The convenient conspiracy theory moniker is slapped on whenever someone points out their BS. However, how often do the things we've been told to believe diverge so drastically from what's really true? The difference between truth and obvious propaganda is getting more blurry as their massive propaganda campaigns drain hundreds of millions of dollars. However, specialists predict that the rising popularity of AI will make the situation even more challenging in the near future. Renowned investigative journalist and author Whitney Webb recently gave an explosive interview to Peak Prosperity in which she warned of a huge impending danger that might lead to a return to the Middle Ages. Not in terms of technology or civilization, but in terms of a tremendous concentration of power among a small number of humans. This has always been the plan, says Whitney, but the plans were almost ruined when the internet came along. The internet isn't perfect, but it does enable critical thinkers like Whitney to uncover this huge conspiracy by challenging the narrative. However, that is the modern internet. Whitney has issued a dire warning that our current internet will undergo a radical transformation beginning in the year 2025. The shift will be substantial, but few will notice because of how little it is. Here are some excerpts from Whitney's interview where she discusses the terrifying future of AI censorship, the enormous decline in human intelligence as a result of our reliance on AI, and the extensive and pervasive monitoring of our every move, particularly our finances. If you enjoyed this video and would want to see more like it, subscribe to our channel and enable post alerts. Much obliged, and have an excellent time. It seems like someone is trying to steer the world in the direction of a neo-feudal model, thus returning to the same hierarchical structure that prevailed during the Dark Ages of Europe. Or the feudal era, a system with kings, an enforcer class, and a vast serf underclass, with the intention of enforcing these divisions through technological means. Because the church controlled the dissemination of knowledge and information during that time, much of which eventually made its way to the serf class via the printing press and similar technologies, and now in more recent versions, the internet. I believe that attempts to control the flow of information are an important part of that. It seems to me that the powers that be are trying to revert things to the neo-feudal era by imposing strict censorship policies and ensuring that their artificial intelligence chatbots generate the majority of online content in an effort to regain control of the internet and information flow. I believe those two elements work hand in hand to create a false reality that will allow them to dominate and herd us into the institutions they have set up to keep most people in the serf underclass. Many prominent AI thinkers have openly discussed how AI is being used to create an elite class similar to the oil barons of yesteryear, where the data barons and programmers control the data used to train the system. This upper class will control the data, and the lower class will be affected by AI's actions. The lower class will eventually become cognitively incapable of understanding how AI is influencing their opinions and will become dependent on AI for everything. They will no longer be able to function, make decisions, or know their own preferences without it. And this was spelt out by prominent officials like Henry Kissinger and former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, who publicly discussed the direction this technology is headed us. The development of this neo-feudal model relies heavily on information, in my opinion, because the ultimate goal is to influence human behavior through manipulating people's perceptions of reality. Regarding the COVID era and its associated lockdowns, for instance, I believe it was a huge advantage for them because people were primarily interacting with the online world, which they could control better, allowing them to create realities that don't actually exist, convince people that this is what's happening, and manipulate trust as well. As you and your audience are likely aware, the major focus of the World Economic Forum for the last several years, including this year, has been restoring confidence and finding ways to gain or regain the trust of those who have, to different degrees, become aware of the current power grab by the elite. Part of it is managing narratives, and the internet has been a problem for them since anyone can post anything online and anyone can read it. This has led to more attempts to censor and also to have them create most of the content using AI. It has been speculated that by 2025, a year from now, conversational GPT and generative AI will have generated 90% of all web content. The Europol Innovation Lab predicted in a paper from 2023 that by 2025, I will have contributed to the creation of over 90% of all online content. When it comes to innovation, this lab backs up the European police force. So it's reasonable to assume that it provides reliable information. But having AI rule the internet is just the beginning. As Whitney has cautioned, a current marketing campaign portrays it as an objective information source that may simplify people's lives. What good is a simpler life when we're all essentially just walking corpses? We shall be subjected to reading only their approved materials, viewing only their approved images, and considering only their approved ideas. Censorship will also become much easier when AI generates 90% or more of the stuff that people consume online. Consequently, dissident opinions will be met with immediate censorship, surveillance, and harassment. This, though, is just the beginning. According to Whitney, the end goal is the total domination of all human beings and the concentration of power in the hands of a small number of filthy, hungry elite. We should return to the interview. There is another layer to this, to be sure, because we are entering an AI era where it is possible for AI-generated characters to say things they didn't say or for events to imply the existence of certain realities when they don't through this whole deep fake thing. Because they are increasingly controlling the virtual world, you will receive more data and information that they manipulate for their purposes if you are solely online, which is why I think it's important for people to participate in both online and offline discourses. I'm sure it will be weaponized heavily. More of that is happening now than it ever has before, in my opinion. Therefore, I believe it is more necessary than ever to spend time away from technology, interact with actual people, and observe the world as it truly is. Big data mining companies that serve intelligence agencies, such as Palantir, and artificial intelligence have contributed to the creation of highly personalized profiles of individuals. We know the military and various other groups have spent millions of dollars creating bot armies to carry out influence activities, so that's the core idea. It was legalized during Obama's administration, and we know they also do it against the domestic population. During Obama's administration, they removed the bar on domestic propaganda and did a bunch of other things with the NDA or one of its predecessors. On the home front, the American people can be the target of all that in order to advance, even though they claim to be acting in the U.S.'s national interest. What these people really want is for the deep state or the power elite to keep us from making any significant changes that would make them look bad or stop us from going any further down this road. As a result, I believe that PSYOPs are free to operate like never before. Additionally, I am concerned that there is a heightened effort in this area as a result of their attempts to restore trust. Their goal is to give unworthy individuals anti-establishment influence so that they can pretend to